It's time to take a look at the annual DC movie that's not Batman or Superman. We must cherish these moments when we have them, for they are few and far between. And this is a rare Wonder Woman movie, which I really hate having to say because, well, Wonder Woman is like one of the biggest characters in the DC universe. She's part of the big three of the Justice League. You'd think she'd get a little bit more attention. This one takes place, of course, in the animated DC universe for the DVD movies, and it's the first animated Wonder Woman movie in 10 years. Yeah, there was that other one, which was a standalone film. It wasn't really connected to anything else, and it was good. It wasn't a bad movie, mind you, but I did have some problems with it. Mainly how a lot of the characters were portrayed. Like how every man in that movie was a sexist pig, and then every female was a man-hating ultra-feminist, and there was like no middle ground. But again, it wasn't a bad movie. The story was good, the animation was good, the acting was good, the action was great. It's just, because of its visceralness, I personally find it kind of hard to watch. Then, of course, we had the live-action Wonder Woman movie, which was way better, in my opinion, and at the time was considered to be the best of the DC movies, until Shazam showed up and took that title away. But thankfully, we now have another Wonder Woman movie, and like I said, it takes place in the DC animated universe for the DVD movies. But this one doesn't really continue the story that they've been having over the past couple of movies. This one actually jumps around quite a bit. It time skips, and it actually goes back to Wonder Woman's origin story and how she met Steve Trevor. Although they don't really spend a whole lot of time on that, which I kind of liked because, well, I think Wonder Woman falls into that category of heroes that we don't really need to hear the origin story of again. So they basically just gave us the important bits and then we just moved along to the rest of the story, which I think was a really good decision to make because then it would just, take up extra time. Although this movie did have quite an extended cold opening, and they did so to establish a couple of characters and some very important plot points, but it was very slow-paced for a while, and we didn't even see the title screen for some time. A portion of the movie focuses on a girl named Vanessa who Wonder Woman befriends, and they try to get to know each other, but she has a very possessive mom who is like a historian, and she's more interested in Wonder Woman, and Vanessa kind of gets ordered around, and her mom's very possessive and everything, and the whole thing kind of leads to her like going on a bad path, and she eventually becomes the DC character Silver Swan. Though there is a bit of a time skip here, and I'm not entirely sure where this falls in the timeline of the storyline they have for the DVD movies, but they do establish at one point that this does take place sometime after Wonder Woman and Superman break up. And I think I mentioned this in my review of the Death of Superman adaptation, but I do not like Wonder Woman and Superman together as a couple. They're boring, and personally, I don't even know why they even bothered in the first place, especially considering they just ended up breaking up anyway, so it seems that whole thing was completely pointless. But I guess it's fine because now Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor can form a relationship. And I really like Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor because they're just so much fun. I like how they met. I like how they have really good chemistry together. They work off each other very well. Etta Candy is in this as well, and I really like this version of her. She's, if I can use a term from a different superhero movie, she's basically the man in the chair. So whenever Steve Trevor, calls her or anything, he's like, Etta, we need a thing. And then she's like, got it. And just in general, the three of them together were great. They have a really good team camaraderie going on. And I really hope we get to see more of them together. The plot with Vanessa was really good too. And like I said before, her and Wonder Woman started to become friends, but her mom got a little bit possessive and she started going off the deep end. And then at one point, spoilers happen, and that's what just completely sets her off. So a good portion of the movie is Wonder Woman trying to reason with her and trying to help her and prevent her from going full supervillain. They established quite a few new characters in this, or at least new to the DVD universe, and personally, I think a couple of them we definitely needed to see more of. There's a scene in this movie where they have to go to the labyrinth from Greek mythology, and they run into the Minotaur. And at one point they become friends with the Minotaur, and Steve Trevor names him Ferdinand, which I thought was really funny. And we didn't really see a whole lot of him in this movie. We saw him in like 2 scenes, and I think we definitely needed to see more of him. Some of the well-known villains they established in this movie just kind of came and went too. And, well, let's just say some of them are probably not coming back. One of the major problems with this movie, though, is it suffers from obvious villain syndrome. Without giving away too much, let's just say if there's a character in this movie that seems like they're up to no good, then yeah, they're up to no good. Another problem I kind of had with this movie was there was basically 2 plots going on. I felt like the whole thing with Vanessa was enough for a compelling story, but then they had to do this whole, like, takeover type of thing, and it just kind of felt like a B plot. Also, I have to mention something about the climax of this movie. You see, at one point they name drop somebody, and that's about it. And then that person becomes an integral part of the climax. And it felt like it came out of nowhere, and I feel like they could have done something a bit better with it, especially considering how many villains they established in this, how many great villains they established. Also, without spoiling too much, this particular character does a very specific thing, and when the whole thing is resolved, everything kind of goes back to normal, so it feels like there wasn't a whole lot of consequence to this movie. Although, without, again, spoiling too much, there are a couple of moments where it could probably get pretty dark, considering, you know, some stuff that happens along the way and then how everything gets resolved. It's one of those things you really have to think about, and when you do, it makes this movie a lot more gruesome than they probably had intended. But anyway, this movie was really good. I think the DC movies have been very consistently good for quite some time now. The irony here is I don't think this is as good as some of the Batman and Superman movies we've seen recently, but it's definitely a worthy addition to the storyline and to the continuity. And yes, it's definitely worth a watch, especially if you are a bit hungry for some Wonder Woman content. But yeah, it was good. Now we just wait for the next DC movie, which is Superman. But that's all I got for Wonder Woman Bloodlines. Leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.